Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
Thrive Suite Productions. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History. It's January 2nd, and on this day in 2016, we remember one of the greatest comebacks in college football history with one of the unlikeliest of heroes. It was the 15th-ranked Oregon Ducks and the number 11 TCU Horned Frogs in the Alamo Bowl. Starting at quarterback for the Frogs that day was senior walk-on Bram Kohlhausen, who was making his first and only start of his collegiate career. TCU's starting QB throughout the season had been Trayvon Boykin, but Boykin found himself in legal trouble in the weeks leading up to the game and was ineligible. The Ducks dominated the first half behind the running of Royce Freeman, who scored twice, and the leadership of quarterback Vernon Adams, who completed 13 passes for 197 yards and a touchdown. But Adams was knocked out of the game late in the first half and never returned. But with a 31-0 lead at the half, things looked pretty comfortable for the Ducks. TCU didn't score their first points of the game until a field goal with 10:52 to play in the third. Not exactly a clarion call that the comeback had commenced. But the one thing the Frogs could do that season was score. They scored 50 or more points in 5 games that year. With 4:18 to play in the third quarter, Kohlhausen hooked up with Jalen Austin for a 26-yard touchdown strike. Kohlhausen scored himself on a 2-yard run to close out the third quarter, and it was a 31-17 game going to the fourth. Another field goal made it an 11-point game with under 8 to play. Still a lot of ground to make up, and time was getting tight. TCU got the ball back with 4.5 to play, and Kohlhausen marched the Horned Frogs down the field to set up this score. Here's Brian Estridge with the Horned Frogs Sports Network from Learfield with the call.
Kohlhausen under center, direct snap comes to Green. Kohlhausen blocks for it on the edge. Aaron will score! 3:32 to play. The Frogs now are within 5. They'll go for 2 here.
The Frogs converted the 2-point conversion, and it was a 3-point game. And at that point, the long-shot dream started to feel like it could actually happen. Jaden Oberchrome hit a 22-yard field goal with 19 seconds to play to tie the game at 31 and send it to overtime. In the first OT, the Horned Frogs got the ball first, and here again is Brian Estridge with the call.
Kohlhausen with time over the middle of the field. It's caught by Porter! Emmanuel Porter hauls it in for the score! And the Frogs go up 37-31.
So after trailing 31-0 in the third quarter, TCU had their first lead of the game. Oregon put their first points on the board since the first half to send it to a second overtime. The teams traded field goals to push the game into the third OT. And once again, it was the unlikely hero, Bram Kohlhausen, who rose to the occasion.
Snap comes back. Option short side. Kohlhausen keeps. Kohlhausen scores! Oh my!
The Horned Frog defense shut down the Ducks on their possession in the third OT, and TCU tied the record for the largest deficit overcome in a bowl game. Kohlhausen completed 28 passes for 351 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 45 yards and 2 scores and was named MVP of the Alamo Bowl in his first and only start. Also on this day, in 1971, 66 people died and more than 200 were injured in a crush of spectators at Ibrox Park in Glasgow, Scotland. Supporters of Rangers were attempting to leave the ground after rival Celtic scored in the 90th minute to take a 1-0 lead. Ironically, Rangers equalized a few minutes later, and the game finished 1-1. And in 1953, the Baltimore Bullets lost 73-56 on the road to the Indianapolis Olympians. It was the first of 32 straight road losses for the Bullets, an ignominious NBA record. That's it for today. Thanks to Brian Estridge and the Horned Frog Sports Network from Learfield for the use of the radio calls in today's show. And when you have a moment, rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app of your choice. Thanks for listening today, and I'll have another epic comeback in tomorrow's edition of This Day in Sports History.